Want candy now?
What is going on, everybody? This is Nasdorachi coming back at you yet again with another episode of Final Fantasy Record Keeper Relic Review. This time we have a Final Fantasy VII, the Masters of the Planet event. This event is mostly focused around B-roll characters and the Turks and some of the Shinra remains like Rufus, but the first banner does feature some powerhouse items for Sephiroth, a fan favorite villain, and all of my Final Fantasy VII episodes seem to do pretty well when they're timed properly. So we're going to do a relic review for this episode, and at least one, maybe two draws. This isn't a really important banner. Looking forward, you have the Final Fantasy X event. That's going to have some great stuff for Tidus. You'll have the Final Fantasy Tactics Advance event, which will have Ramses Bsb 2. So those are both highlight events there. And then, of course, we will have the Winter Festival and the Christmas festivities. So right now is about the time you should start saving and budgeting for these pulls that are up and coming here. But in lieu of all that, let's just hop in to the Relic banner and review that as quick as we can here. Hopefully we get some good luck on our pulls too, man. We could really use it. Alrighty, so the first item here is the USB Mako Katana. It's Sephiroth's new and only USB so far. His Legend Dive should also be available now, and that's pretty awesome. So this is a very awkward looking sword right here, definitely outside of the norm. They use their imagination on this one a little bit here, but it looks pretty cool, and unfortunately, just like his other 6-star relic, the Chiri, the bonus effect is synergy dependent for the small boost to dark damage. So sadly that is consistent across both of his 6-star relics. Now his Bsb Two Sword, which is also on the banner, has got all realms dark damage. Unfortunately the attack stat on it's nowhere near this nice 177 right here, but that's kind of what you're working with right there. We have the USB Heartless Angel, 15 physical dark attacks to one target. Temporarily infuse the user with the power of dark, grant the user empowered darkness, lower the user's defense resistance a small amount, and raise the user's attack a large amount. It's kind of an interesting USB. It basically doubles down on his dark damage by not only infusing it, which you can get from his LMR and I believe his Bsb 2, but the doubling down of the dark damage and a double bargain, so you lose 2 stats for a 50% attack buff. It is pretty interesting. Unfortunately, no EX mode. I would have expected Sephiroth to get an EX mode, but you have the 15 attacks here. So for Dark Chain, that's going to be amazing right there. It's going to do a lot of damage, and even though Sephiroth is not one of the best characters in Record Keeper, he's definitely really, really good, and he's one of my favorite villains. So we're definitely interested in this USB right here. Again, the only downside to it's really that the bonus effect is synergy dependent. It'd be nice for him to get a good all realms relic. Next up here, we have the USB for Red 13 and Nanaki, the Scent Clip. You have mixed stats here, good attack stat 174 with 112 magic on it as well. USB Mighty Warrior. Haste to all allies, temporarily raise their attack a moderate amount, defense and resistance a small amount, and grant them a barrier that enables them to avoid 1 debuff. So you get Astra from this. You as well will get a nice tri buff that makes it incredibly stackable. Red 13 is a really good buffing character in this game, and Hastega is great as well. If you're not running Final Fantasy VII Sid on your teams for his version of Ramses' Shout, you can get a great Hastega and buffing effect from this, and it'll help counter Sephiroth's double bargain against himself. So if you are running Sephiroth in Red 13, this can kind of counteract Sephiroth's USB a little bit, and as well stack some more attack on there. So pretty good USB. I don't really have Red 13 leveled right now, but again, if you're in need of good buffing characters, he can definitely come in handy there. And next up here, we have another 6-star relic for Sephiroth, the Chiri that I had spoke of earlier. Not as good of an attack stat as his new 6-star relic, and the same bonus effect. Again, unfortunately, it's synergy dependent, so no really good all-round 6-star relic for Sephiroth here. Now you have the Heaven's Light OSB, massive physical dark and fire damage to one target, can break the damage cap. Very basic, no modifiers on it, but you do have 2 elements, dark and fire. This will get boosted by his USB with the empowered dark, so you can USB into this OSB potentially for some added damage, but it's just kind of a basic OSB. It's definitely good, and the animation on it's quite nice. The Relic itself is pretty good as well. If you happen to not scoop the USB, but you get this instead if you're making pulls here, you can still get some good stats for Seph off this right here. So I don't know if I'd want a dupe of that or not. I'd honestly prefer a dupe of his Bsb 2 to get that all realms dark damage up a little bit. So next up here we have a new Bsb for Rufus here, the Riot Rifle, 128 attack on a gun with no bonus effects, President's Scorn, 8 range physical dark and non-elemental attacks to all targets, temporarily lower their dark resistance and grant haste and burst mode to the user, deals more damage to fewer targets. So that's pretty nifty right there. I like that for when you're on single target boss fights. You get the Dark Imperil, so this is a good source of a physical Dark Imperil, unlike X-Death or a character like that. I believe either Seymour or Kuja might have another magic Dark Imperil, but this will be a good physical source of that. And Rufus is not a really great character. His SSB is basically a dark version of General Leo's Super Soul Break, to the darker poison, I forget. I think it's dark based though. So you do have a reasonably good Bsb for him here with the Dark Imperil. Other than that, it's kind of standard. I do like that final modifier with the fewer targets damage buff. Your burst abilities, triple Mako shot, 3 range physical dark non-elemental attacks to one target, and reduce the delay of the user's actions for 2 turns. This is great for spamming out DPS. You have the President's Gambit, 2 range physical dark non-elemental attacks to all targets, with a small chance to temporarily imperil them a little bit more. This kind of reminds me of Nabat. That was the other magic Dark Imperil I was thinking of. So Nabat's got a very similar mechanic where one of her burst commands can as well further imperil. The chance of it's pretty slow though, so you're almost better off just spamming the first command out. You get the 2 turns of reduction, and you might be able to fit the President's Gambit in there, but honestly, your best option for DPS is just sticking with triple Mako shot. Sharpshooter abilities, dark. He's a good physical dark dealer. Just not great, but he's definitely good. I will give Rufus that much. Next up here, as we back scroll, we will have Aerith's new Bsb 2 here, the Holy Rod. You have 55 attack, 100 magic, 141 with a all realms small boost to holy damage. It'll work with Aerith, and there's a couple other white mages that can get some good usage out of this. Even Vanille, if you have her Bsb, can boost her command 1 a little bit here. And you have the Bsb Prayer of Salvation. Restore a large amount of HP to all allies, temporarily raise their dark resistance a small amount, and grant haste and burst mode to the user. So this is a very interesting Bsb right here. You do have the large heal. Unfortunately, it's not instant, but it's still really good large heal. The dark resistance buff is going to be very situationally useful. Be great in Dark Magicite. It'll be great in any dark themed dungeon, but outside of that, you're not going to get any use out of that really at all. And you get the haste burst mode standard there. You have Breath of the Planet, instantly restore a very large amount of HP to one ally. I love this command on Aerith, and it's great on Y'shtola, other characters that have it. It helps them build gauge faster if they don't have access to Wrath, which unfortunately Aerith and Aerith both do not have access to Wrath. So this will help build gauge a little bit quicker once you have it going. And then it's just an instant large heal, very good. With the double cast white mechanic that Aerith gets access to with her LMR, this becomes even better right here. And then you have Curata to combo with the LMR as well. Again, we should all know by now that I love my double and triple cast Legend Materias. So second command, Blessing of the Ancients. Raise the attack of one ally a moderate amount and resistance a small amount. Grant them major regen. So this is a very interesting command right here. It's nowhere near as useful as the first command. And unfortunately, other than the entry, she doesn't get an AoE heal here. But you can make great use of this. This double buff to attack and resistance and the major regen is not only very stackable, but in magic-based situations it's going to help out even more. Of course, you'll want to combo this on a physical-based party, but you can definitely squeeze this in, and she'll be double casting it potentially too, which pretty interesting. I do like this Bsb 2. In my opinion, it's quite a bit better than her first Bsb, which has a damage on entry effect, if I remember correctly, the white materia. So I'm liking the Bsb 2 a lot, and that with her LMR makes Aerith a much better healer than she was previous to this banner. Next up here, returning item that I do have, and I really like it, the Yoshiyuki Shinichi. It is a 137 attack with all realms dark damage boost and effects. Katana for Sephiroth here. Again, this is almost his best option when you are dealing with anything that's not Final Fantasy VII content, because he'll get that dark damage boost. You can combine this with his glove, which has the same effect, for a double little buff there, which will help him out a lot. So I honestly wouldn't necessarily mind a dupe of this, as long as it's not at the cost of something better. But this is a really good Bsb and a really good relic for katana users that like to dabble in the dark arts. You have the Octaslash Bsb, 8 physical dark non-elemental attacks to one target, grant shield to the user, which enables them to avoid 2 physical or magic attacks, and infuse the user with the power of dark. So I was right about that earlier. It does have the end dark, which kind of makes the LMR and USB not as powerful because you can get Endark off the Bsb 2. But with that being said, the LMR shines because starting with Endark will increase the damage of whatever entry effect you choose to use that would normally give you Endark. Just like we've seen with Shadow, it'll boost the damage of the entry of his USB or his Bsb. So that's still worth getting. The USB obviously is worth getting, and you have Endark here. So Sephiroth is not suffering from any source of Endark. The double blink as well in this relic is quite nice. I love it. It's physical or magic, and you get 2 in a row, which, even though it's very selfish, is probably the most overpowered blink in the game. I mean, I can't think of anything that tops that. It would just be great if it was an AoE effect. How broken would that be? You have the burst abilities Black Wing, 3 to 5 physical dark non-elemental attacks to one target. The number of attacks dealt depends on the user's attack. So he's got the attack buff on his USB. You have attack buffs on characters like Aerith and Red 13. You have Ram's Shout, or the Final Fantasy VII version with Sid. So plenty of sources to get his attack up. The second command, Fallen Angel, here is a 2-hit bargain attack, so it'll lower the defense for an attack buff. So you can get a buff there. Just combine that with a couple other buffs, and you should be able to get the maximum number of hits out of Blackwing relatively easily. And then just keep spamming out that 5-hit command 1 there. It's a really good Bsb. It features a lot of the things we like to see, like a bargain, and an element, and as well that super powerful blink mechanic, and a scaling command 1 that can get some reasonably good DPS. So with all things considered, this is a very good Bsb, and if you like Sephiroth and you're building him, you will definitely want that one. And coming up next here, we have a Bsb for Red 13, the Platinum Beret. It is hairpin 123.96, so way lower stats than his USB, but you probably just want to master this and then equip that if you have that option. No bonus effects either with the Bsb Cosmo Canyon. Raise the attack and magic of all allies a moderate amount, grant them major regen and haste burst mode to the user. So this is basically a Final Fantasy VII source of onion buff. Unfortunately, no haste Dagger here, but it is featured on his USB. So if you're wrathing and throwing out soul breaks, it's not too hard to fit this in with Red 13 and make good on Red 13's ability to just be a great buffing character. So you have Steel Break Howl, physical damage to one target and lower its defense a large amount with reduced delay, and Stone Fang, physical damage to one target and lower its resistance a large amount. So if you're bringing a physical-based team, you'll stick with Command 1. If you are bringing a magic-based team, you will stick with Command 2 here. And that's pretty much all there is to it. Even though they have reduced delay, it's still only 1 hit. So they'll roll out quickly, but you're not going to get a really good amount of DPS using Red 13. And as well, he's more of a buffing character than a breakdowns character. So the main aspect of this that you're really looking at is the onion buff on entry there. And then from there, potentially just wrathing into his USB if you aren't doing it, you know, opposite of that already. But yeah, good entry effect. okay commands, just kind of out of character for his buffing nature. It's a good BSB, not really what I would be looking for off of this pull, but I'll take it if I happen to get it. Next up here, Legend Materia for Sephiroth. It's his awesome dark coat. Unfortunately, no bonus effects, so in terms of equips, his Super Soul Break glove is going to be much better than this, so you'll master this and then toss it, even though it's a really cool looking jacket. Stats are pretty standard for light armor, but nice 117, 117 on the defense resistance. And you get Fateful Secret, begin battle temporarily infused with the power of dark. It's just basically going to speed up his ability to crank damage out. You won't have to rely on casting a Soul Break first to get this, therefore it'll boost the damage of all your entry effects when you go to use your first Soul Break. With that in mind, it's not a double cast really here, so not ultra necessary, but it still helps. It speeds things up a little bit, saves a little bit of Soul Break gauge. You can kind of just lead into heavy hitting stuff and just get a little bit more value out of it. But definitely master and then unequip for his glove if you have it. Next up here, Rufus's jacket, a light armor, same stats as Sephiroth's, and it has minor dark resistance. So you could potentially use this in the Shadow Dragon Magicite on a physical-based team, or physical-based character anyway. Legend Materia, Titan of Industry, moderate chance to reduce the delay of the user's actions for 1 turn when using darkness abilities. This is okay, I guess. His BSB, if you have that, has the delay reduction on the first command. That makes this a little bit less valuable, but if it could potentially stack with that, get some more delay reduction, or if you don't get the BSB, this is okay, I suppose. It's not really an amazing Legend Materia, but it's still pretty good. Delay reduction is always appreciated, really no matter where it's coming from. This is probably the best Legend Materia relic on the banner. It's Aerith's red jacket, light armor, and same stats again as the other 2 LMRs on the banner. We have minor holy resistance, so potential use for a healer in the Mist Dragon Magicite dungeon. You have Flower of the Slums, small chance for white magic abilities to trigger twice. I love double cast Legend Materia, so we already know how useful this can be with double casting Curata, double casting burst commands. It's just really, really good, and it's going to help her build gauge even faster if you're double casting 5 or 6 star abilities. So all in all, in my opinion, probably this is the best LMR on the banner. Next up, Super Soul Break for Shulk, which is a Dirge of Cerberus character. Bracers with stats all over the place, kind of what we're used to with bracers here. Minor lightning resistance, which may or may not come into play. I kind of like damaging effects better, to be honest with you. Super Soul Break counterattack, dispel on all targets, Asuna on all allies, and grant them major regen. Very high utility on this Super Soul Break here. It's actually 100% utility, and in certain situations it can actually be quite useful if you are, running up into trouble with debuffing effects, or you need that dispel. It's probably not something I would devote a whole lot of Soul Break gauge, but it's very much a specialty Soul Break, one that you will use only in very, very few situations. Next up, Super Soul Break for Aerith, the Wizard Staff, the Soul Break Pulse of Life, grant re-raise and restore a moderate amount of HP to all allies. Allies are raised with moderate HP. Nowhere near as good as Last Stand. Unfortunately, re-raise, your characters will have to die first for it to trigger, meaning you do lose all your buffs. So that could still really screw you up in a dungeon. You're much better off going with Last Stand. And at this point in the game, there are plenty of sources of it. So unfortunately, this is a little bit of a dated Super Soul Break. It's still useful. I mean, it can still help. You can still use re-raise and get through a dungeon if you really time out your buffs properly. But I'm going to say that you're not going to devote too much Soul Break gauge to using the Pulse of Life here. We do have all the items covered now, so let's make a 100 gem draw and maybe 1 or 2 other pulls. We'll see how it goes here. Alright, so our 100 gem draw has been made here. We're on a pretty heavy long-running streak of not having good luck, and unfortunately, that continues, at least on the 100 gem draws. That's what I meant when I said we're on a long-time streak with not so good luck. So let's move in and do 150 pull. I do have some Sephiroth dupes here, but I could totally use all the LMRs and pretty much all the BSBs on this banner. So it's not a terrible banner. Again, remember, looking forward, you have Tactics and Final Fantasy X to think about, but let's be a little bit wasteful here. In the name of Final Fantasy VII, which most everybody likes. Most everybody. Alright, Dr. Mog. How's it looking? Oh, we got a 6-star. That's not necessarily good news. It's 2 out of 3 chance we'll get something that's new. Alright. What's the damage here? What is the damage? So I got the Poo-Poo Wizard Staff.
I've thought of a wonderful present for you. Shall I give you
A duplicate 6-star relic.
And I got a Chirujiraden dupe. Not the 6-star that we really needed here. I will be wasteful and use 50 Mithril to do one more pull here, and that's about it. So, our last pull on the banner has been done. Not having so much luck recently these days. Oh, man. So, no Sephiroth USB. Maybe we'll come out with his LMR or Aerith's LMR, although I have nothing for Aerith to make good use of it with, so... Oh, counterattack. Great. And we did get Rufus's BSB. I do have his Super Soul Break, so maybe that's a good enough reason to break him out for a physical Dark Team, but kind of disappointed with these results, honestly. Really would have liked to see a Sephiroth USB or Sephiroth LMR, but the rest of the resources will be saved. Final Fantasy X and Ramses Bsb 2 on the Tactics Advance event are both pretty attractive, and unfortunately, we have no more resources to spend today. I hope you guys did really enjoy this episode of Relic Review, and if you did, leave me a thumbs up. Definitely lets me know that you guys are enjoying them, and to keep making them as often as I can squeeze them in now. If you guys are new around here, feel free to subscribe and hit the notification bell so I can see you again on future videos. It's definitely awesome. And if you guys decided to make pulls on this as well, or if you're planning from the future, comment down below. Let me know what you pulled, what you're planning for. Until next time, this is Nasdorachi. I hope you guys do have a great evening, and I will catch you later. Peace out, everybody. Have a good one.